Okay, so I'm going to take you through the setup of the administration. So clicking the small icon down the bottom here will take us through to the admin area. Now, first thing we see is time in and time out. So that's basically, it can be set to default, but it's what time you want your gear to come back the next day or whenever it's supposed to come back. Do you use meters, length, or are you in the US? Your currency, and whether you use pounds or kilos. In here you can set up the color that goes with your icon. So underneath your icon on an invoice, the line that says quantity unit would be this color that you select. Generally I select white smoke, it's pretty standard. Do you charge surcharge? So you can turn that on, and then you can call this what you like: insurance, admin fee, and you can give it a rate. Is it a recurring surcharge? So does it come on every invoice that you send? Because most surcharges just happen on the first invoice. So we'll turn that off. Do we charge a security deposit or a bond? If you do, then you can turn that on, and then you can put in an amount here. Also, do you want the T's and C's, your terms and conditions, to show? And do you use a rate calculator? A rate calculator means that if I had a 3-day period from XYZ date to the next date, then if I have the rate calculator on, it will charge by the day or by the week or by the unit. If I have this off, then it would only show one period, so one fee, $100 for those 3 days. If my rate was $100 a day. If I have this on, it will charge $100 a day for those 3 days. If we do majority long-term rentals, then we turn that on, and then we have some settings in here which we want to do. We want to set the long-term initial period to the dates on the main tab. So if we set a 12-week period with the job, then the first bill that we're going to create will be for those 12 weeks. And then we can also do pro rata. So we could pro rata the first invoice, or we could just do the first month and then pro rata the second invoice to the end of the month. Once we make those changes, then we just hit save. Our terms, which we want to set as default. Over here on the right hand side, we've got our company, which we can click in here, our trading as, our ABN, just the standard details. Our logo, which we just click in and then find that logo. And we use this nice silver logo. Okay, our bank name and our account name, and what our BSB and our account number is. And then we have our address. So you can search for addresses and it will find that, and then you can just hit enter. So just click and it will populate. So this search address area or field is available throughout the software. Up the top here we just have our various credentials for connecting to Xero or QuickBooks or our MyOb account. And then the last tab here, we have some custom fields which we can call the invoice. In Australia we call them tax invoice. So, and then what we want to put as our contract label. Here we have spare labels, and these go onto the job sheets, as you can see. So if we wanted to get tires were checked, we'd say tire check, or what's the surface. Is there power supplied? And we do it a bit more professional. Excuse me. So we could have these spare fields. Also down the bottom here we can see inventory labels. So once again, we've got in the inventory, we've got width, height, so forth. But if I was a computer company, I could say, well, show me how much RAM. So where it says spare here, in the inventory would say RAM, and then I could put 3.6 gig or whatever it is. So if you need extra fields in your inventory, you can add those fields in here. Just going to delete these, and then we would just hit save. Down the bottom we have our staff. So when we add a staff member, we give them a first name, of course, last name, their email address. Then we'll put in their username, which generally would be their email address, and then a password. Then we select, obviously it's already selected what company they're at, because we could have 3 businesses in here and we'll default to whichever company they work at. And then we select their rights. And the only other thing that we need to do is we need to give them a date started when they did start with you, which could be way back here. And the last thing that we want to do is, if this staff member gets sent out on jobs, then we would tick this box here. Okay, once we tick that box, then they would be added to the list of logistics and crew here. So there's your staff, and you can reset their passwords by clicking this button here. Let's go up the top here. Then we have the logistics and crew. So this is where you're going to show your vehicles and your staff. So we can see staff members, and we can also see vehicles. What the system allows us to do is we can add drivers to a job, and then we can tell them which vehicle he's taking. What's our default? Do we deliver as a default, or do the clients pick up from us? This don't add street address to new jobs is basically, with construction, we don't want them turning up at the office address. So if we tick this, it won't automatically add an address, a delivery address, because it could be lot 53, not the actual office of the company that's creating the booking. And then once again, the same thing, because it might be a long-term rental. We don't know when it's coming back, so we don't want to add a collection automatically. If that wasn't ticked, it would, and we set a 2-week job from the start to end, it would actually add the collection date at the end of those 2 weeks. Do we want to show our delivery address on quotes? Yes. Do we want to automatically check the availability? And there's just some de-prep. Do we have to prep the equipment 1 day, 2 days before? So the availability of that equipment would be from the prep date to when it comes back, and then the de-prep date, because it could take 2 days to clean it, which we would say add, and then it's 1 day before, and then we can save that. The next one is the rates. So these are the rate types that you have. So this is a service rate. So if we create an installation operator service, that would just go under this hourly type or rate type. So we're charging by the hour, and it's a service. Where these are rental rates, which you can see there. So we do have a daily. So once we put that excavator out, or the toilet or the fence, it would go into a daily rate. But if we don't do daily, we can just delete that, and then we can charge by the week. Or we can add the monthly if we have monthly charge. So just imagine in your inventory item, you'll see hour, or you'll see daily, and we can put in $50 a day, 125 a week, whatever. What's your default rate, which we're saying daily here, and our default billing period is monthly. So we bill every month, even if it's on a weekly rate. We can have credit card charges down here. So if we turn this on in a job, it will charge 2.2% on top of the job. And don't show unit price on invoice. Just at the end of the line, it won't put the price. So it'll only give the company a total. We put that on there so that if you didn't want people comparing pricing, it will just give an overall total of the job, not really individual pricing. And this last one, if you're a temporary fence company, what it does is, if this isn't ticked, when it calculates the meterage of a job, it will add 1 extra panel just to make sure you've got enough. If you tick this, then it will be exact. If it's 50 meters and they're 2.5 meter panels, then there'll be 20 panels. Hope that's right. Okay, so that's the rate cards. Deposits, if you do take deposits, mainly event hire or weddings or so forth, but we can say the deposit's due on the creation date. How much? Is it a percentage, or is it a flat fee? And then when we create that job, this will be turned on, and then it will calculate what the percentage of the job is, or the flat fee, and that will add to an invoice. Your configuration is the next one along. And so here's various job statuses. So when we first create a quote, the status would be quote. And then once we convert that quote from to an actual job, it can move to reserved unpaid. So we're now reserving the gear, but they haven't paid yet. And we could then move it to active job paid. So you can just edit these and call them what you like. On the calendars, we can just see greens or pinks, whatever the status is. So once you get a grasp on the different colors, you know, when you look at a pink job on a calendar, you know it's an account job or it's unpaid delivered. So you can add new statuses or just edit these. This tab here is for categories. So you would add your main category, and then under that category you can add subcategories. So you would just create a new category, whatever it is, and then you can create the subcategories of that. So we can call it X, Y, Z, and then underneath that we can then add a new category, subcategory. I'm going to delete these. So this is just your categories, and then you can hit save if you want to keep those. The next tab is for the calendars, just some default times. Latest time you'd work and the earliest time you work. Do you want to see 15-minute increments on the calendars, or 10 or 30? Do you work on weekends? Yes, we'll show weekends. And if we do long term, if we say compressed view, it'll only show the start date of the job. You won't have these long 12-week stretches on a calendar. So for long term, we definitely put that to compressed view. Then we just hit save to keep all that. Your terms and conditions are here, where you would put your terms, which you can just copy and paste them, and then tidy them up and format, make it look nice. And once you're happy with that, then hit save. And those terms and conditions will get added to emails or print. The next tab is your email tab. So when you send a rental booking out, this is what's going to go. And we can just click merge fields from here. So it'll say, hey Ron, include your booking contract or whatever the contract number is, and whatever we want to say here. And then we can add a signature. There's a rental quote. So this is basically what we want to say when we send out a quote. Plus there's an end of rental email, because if I had a temporary fence out in an initial 12-week period, and at the end of that 12 weeks, this email is going to go out the day before and say, hey, you know, your initial period's finished. We're going to start billing you monthly or whatever, unless you tell us to come and pick up the gear. And this is just to keep everyone happy, so we don't all of a sudden start getting invoices and, you know. Then we have what we want to say on a payment. And what you put here will go on the bottom of the invoice. And you can use ChatGPT to create these emails. So now it's created this message, and what you can do there is then change that to something nice, to Homer, and then you could just get the merge field, client first name. And so basically we have the payment email, but we don't want that there, so I'm going to copy that, remove it, and we'd put it on a rental quote, for example. What you want to put on the default invoice and auto debit invoice, because we have got an auto debit system, and what goes on a reminder invoice, invoice date, and you just put those merge fields in there. So the invoice number, for example, here, give it a little bit of space, and the invoice amount, and what the balance is of that invoice, and the date. I'm just in the due date. And so then we can hit save with that. And just before we leave that, down the bottom of the email section here is the SMT section. So this is basically where we need to put the information for your email servers and your account details, just so that we can connect to your email program, your email platform, and send it through our software. Okay, so that's the email. Then there's trading hours, which are pretty simple, and tax rates. So if you add a new tax rate, you can call it what you like, and then what the tax code is, and then what the percentages are, and then what the default one is. The last bit of the admin that I want to show you is under your company is where we put the depots. So we can have multiple depots here. Just fill those details in. If it's the primary depot, we turn that on. And then if we do use stock allocation, if we tick that, then what happens in our inventory, it would show the multiple depots, and we can allocate the amounts of inventory to each depot. So thanks very much. That's a rundown on the administration area of CloudRent. Thanks for watching.